Okay, so welcome to the deep dive.
Hey there. Yeah, our mission, as always, is pretty straightforward.
Right. You send us your sources, articles, notes, whatever you've got, and we dive in.
We sift through it all, pull out the really important bits, the key insights, basically save you the trouble.
Exactly. Your shortcut to getting up to speed.
And today, the material you sent is an interesting mix. Some texts, images, looks like maybe from a class or something, and a transcript.
All centered around time, which is, a huge topic.
Huge. And these sources tackle it from really different angles.
Yeah, we're going from like everyday punctuality habits
Yeah.
all the way out to how we think about massive stretches of history.
That's what's so interesting here. The sources kind of slam these two scales together. You've got the personal experience of minutes, hours.
Right next to the methods we use to date things from thousands of years ago.
So let's dig into that.
Okay, sounds good. Let's start with the relatable stuff. Being on time,
Oh,
not being on time.
right. Your sources jump straight into this with three quite different personal stories from that transcript you sent.
These are great. They really put a face on the whole daily time struggle. Before we get into the big history picture.
Totally. So first up, there's speaker one.
Okay.
This person's pretty blunt, describes themselves as never on time.
Ooh, they even give an example, right?
Yeah, late for meetings 3 days in a row last week. That's specific.
And they know it's a problem. They say they keep people waiting a lot, and, well, people get angry, understandably.
And the reason speaker one says they just get so engrossed in work.
The focus trap.
Exactly. They lose all track of time, which maybe it's good for productivity in one way, but
Terrible for scheduling. Right, you can almost see them head down, hours just vanishing.
And they mention trying a workaround, getting everything else ready before I start work.
Trying to build in a buffer.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem to work. They still find, a few hours have passed and I'm already late. The engrossment just wins.
Okay, so that's one type. Then the sources bring in speaker two.
Right. Speaker two also says they're not very punctual.
But there's a twist.
Yeah, a little one. They try not to be late, mainly because they hate being kept waiting myself.
Oh, okay. So there's that empathy piece. They know it's annoying.
Exactly. But what trips them up?
It's the getting ready process. They say they spend too much time getting ready.
And specifically calls out their hair, very thick hair, which can be very time-consuming.
Huh. That's such a specific, relatable detail for probably a lot of people listening.
Definitely. And speaker two even tells a story about it,
Oh, yeah.
having to rush through everything else and getting to a wedding just in time to hear the bride say, I do.
Wow. Cutting it really fine. All because of hair prep.
It's quite the anecdote.
Okay, but then we get speaker three. And this is different.
Oh, yeah. This person is, in their own words, obsessed with punctuality.
Since they were a kid, right. Could tell the time at a very early age.
It's clearly ingrained,
Hmm.
and their methods are, well, there's something else.
Tell us about the watches.
Right. They own about 12 watches and clocks. 12.
But wait, here's the kicker.
None of them are right. None show the right time.
They're all fast.
All 10 minutes fast.
Yep.
That's the system.
Why, though?
Because they can't stand to be late for work or in a hurry. Setting everything fast is their guarantee.
So they always arrive in plenty of time. It's proactive management.
A whole other level compared to speaker one and two. And there's more.
Oh.
They always carry a spare watch, just in case one stops, which they call jobs, apparently.
A spare watch. Wow. That's commitment to the system. A backup for the intentionally wrong watches.
It is. And the result for speaker three, less stress. They arrive early. They can take my time getting my paperwork ready, calm and collected.
So you've got these three very different approaches laid out. Speaker one, lost in work. Speaker two, battling the hair routine. Speaker three with this elaborate fast watch strategy.
Yeah, it really highlights the different ways we relate to and try to control those daily minutes.
Makes you think, doesn't it? How do you, listening, fit in? Are you a speaker one, two, three, or something else entirely? What's your punctuality trick or lack thereof?
Good question.
Okay, so we've been down in the weeds of personal time, meetings, getting ready. Now let's zoom way, way out.
Right, because the sources you sent pivot pretty dramatically from minutes and hours to, well, millennia, historical time.
It's quite a gear shift. The sources start showing us the tools we use for this huge scale.
Yeah, how we conceptualize and measure history.
And it's interesting, you pointed out before, the sources seem focused on how we do this now.
Exactly. They show the current methods, the dating systems, the vocabulary we use today.
But not really the story of how humans developed this concept of deep time or historical periods over, thousands of years.
Correct. It's more about the how-to of dealing with historical time as we currently understand it, the methods and terms.
Which are still really important, obviously. So what tools do they highlight?
With things like dating systems, referencing time before Christ, BC.
Standard stuff, but essential. And circa, right? That little
Exactly.
C,
Mm-hmm.
meaning about or approximately. Crucial when you're talking ancient history where exact dates are often impossible.
Gives you that needed wiggle room.
Definitely. They also bring up radiocarbon dating.
The scientific method.
Yeah, for dating old organic stuff.
Yeah.
Super important for periods before people wrote things down. Like understanding Stonehenge, which they use as an example.
Okay, yeah. Stonehenge comes up, and the sources stress understanding chronological order.
Simply the order in which events actually happened? Sounds basic, maybe?
But fundamental, right. You can't build a historical picture without sequence.
Absolutely not. And Stonehenge is a great case study for these ideas.
So what do they say about it?
That its construction wasn't just one event. It happened in several phases over more than 1,000 years.
1,000 years just to build it. Wow.
Yeah, and they mention specific time blocks, like the Mesolithic period.
And the overall time frame they give is just vast.
It really is. Roughly 8,000 BC to about 1,600 BC. Thinking about that span, compared to Speaker 1 being late for a meeting 3 times last week, it's almost dizzying.
It really puts the personal time scale in perspective, doesn't it? Feels like apples and oranges, almost.
Totally. So beyond the dating methods, the sources also cover the language, the vocabulary we use for history.
Yes, terms like interval of time, period of history, obviously thousands of years, also age, era.
Things like Middle Ages, too, and even middle-aged gets defined, interestingly.
Right, and phrases about ordering, like before people made written records, or defining what it means to exist earlier than something else.
It's about giving us that shared toolkit, the language framework to talk about the deep past.
Makes the abstract more concrete, more manageable.
And they even zoom in on tiny language details like that error warning.
Oh yeah, about using the word long correctly with time.
Like saying took a long time, not just took long in some cases.
It's a small point, maybe,
Yeah.
but it shows how precise we try to be, even linguistically, when discussing time.
So putting it all together, what do we make of this? We've got this micro-level focus on personal punctuality, frantic, strategic, sometimes failing.
And then this macro-level view of history, systematic, using broad dating conventions, specific terms, to map out these huge, almost abstract periods.
The contrast is really stark, isn't it? The very personal, often emotional, daily time versus the, I guess, more detached, methodical approach to historical time.
It is. And, as we talked about, the sources are great at showing the tools and examples for both. How Speaker 3 uses fast watches, how historians use BC and circa.
But they explicitly don't dive into how our fundamental idea of time or our perception of history might have changed over the millennia. They give us the how-to, not the how we got here, in terms of thinking about time itself.
Right, they focus on the application, the methods we employ right now.
Which leads to a really interesting point, maybe. Seeing these two things side by side in the sources, the personal time crush and the historical dating tools, but without that deeper history of time perception itself.
What does that juxtaposition tell us? What does focusing just on the methods of handling time, personal and historical, reveal about our relationship with it?
Yeah, exactly.
So let's recap this deep dive.
Okay. We've really unpacked these sources you sent. We look at those fascinating, very human stories about punctuality, Speaker 1 getting lost in work, Speaker 2's hair dilemma, Speaker 3, and the fleet of fast watches.
Right, the nitty-gritty of managing daily minutes. And then we shifted to the tools for grappling with history's vast-scale concepts like BC, circa, the importance of chronological order, scientific methods like radiocarbon dating.
Using Stonehenge as a key example of applying those historical time concepts.
So the sources give us this vocabulary, these frameworks, for dealing with time on both scales, daily life and deep history.
But we also noted what's not explicitly detailed, the evolution of how humans have understood or conceived of time itself through the ages. The focus is squarely on the how individuals manage it now, how we date the past now.
which leaves us with a final thought to chew on, maybe.
Go for it.
Given that the sources show us the practical tools for managing minutes in dating millennia, but not how our core perception of time itself might have shifted, what could that focus on the tools alone suggest about the fundamental human experience of time?
Mm.
Whether you're rushing for a meeting like Speaker 1 or trying to play Stonehenge in the Mesolithic period, is there maybe a deeper, perhaps unchanging, way we humans fundamentally relate to time's passage beneath all the different strategies and dating systems?
That's definitely something to mull over.